Hi, good morning everyone, Richard Wong here, and today we have another Panasonic camera review, and we are looking at the Panasonic LX100 II. The Panasonic Lumix LX100 II is the successor to the Panasonic Lumix LX100. The camera largely follows the same formula as its predecessor. It's using a large micro four foot size sensor. It has a fast like 3x zoom lens, and it's all inside a pretty compact solid body. If you have used the Panasonic LX100 before, you'll be very familiar with this new camera because from the outside the two cameras look almost exactly the same. Now this is a good thing for me because when I was testing and reviewing the camera before it was announced, I can easily carry it around. I just need to tape the the logo, the LX100 II logo at the top of the camera, and then I don't have to worry about leaking the camera when I'm taking photo on the street. So as I said, it is very similar to the LX100 body, so if you have used the LX100 before, you know how to control the camera. On the top of the camera, there is a shutter speed dial, and then at the front, on the lens, there is a aperture dial. So if you want to shoot in fully auto mode, what you have to do is that change both dial into 8 position. I believe A means automatic, and because the shutter and the aperture are both automatic, and the camera is automatically switched to the P mode, the fully programmed mode. If you want to shoot in aperture priority mode, easy, just change the aperture dial from A to one of the value, for example f1.7, and then you'll be shooting in the aperture priority mode, and you can control the aperture using the aperture ring at the front of the camera. And vice versa, if you want to shoot in shutter priority mode, just put the aperture dial back to A, and then you adjust the setting on the shutter speed dial, change it to the shutter speed you want. And if you want to shoot in fully manual mode, easy, just change both settings to the particular value you want, and then you'll be shooting in fully manual mode. There is also an exposure compensation dial at the top of the camera, and you can use it to adjust exposure compensation as you can imagine. But the best thing is you can also use it to control the exposure compensation even when you are shooting in manual mode. So that means you can set the shutter speed and the aperture to exactly what you want, and then turn on auto ISO, and then you can use the exposure compensation to give you the desired exposure you want. Personally, I really like this feature because a lot of time when I'm taking photos, I like to set the aperture and also the shutter speed to some particular value, and then I let the camera to work out what ISO it has to use to get the desired exposure I want for that particular photo. Next, let's look at the back of the camera. So it has a 3-inch LCD screen, it has a electronic viewfinder, and the button layout I believe is identical to the LX100 as well. The 3-inch touch screen is now a much higher resolution and also is touch enabled. I was actually a bit surprised when Panasonic reminded me that the original LX100 doesn't have a touch screen at the back of the camera, because personally I thought all the Panasonic recent camera have a touch screen, but of course they are right and I'm wrong, so the LX100 doesn't have it. So this is definitely quite a good and very useful upgrade, because Panasonic's touch screen interface is always very good, and with the touch screen you can also do the touch AF, which is something I really like. You put the camera up here and then you can use the thumb and slide it around the LCD screen to adjust the autofocus point, which I find is very intuitive and very fast and precise as well. I know that a lot of people want to have a tiltable screen on the LX100's successor. Unfortunately, the LCD screen on the LX100 II is still the fixed one, so no tiltable screen, and a lot of people will be disappointed about that. The electronic viewfinder is unchanged from the original LX100. It's a 0.7 magnification, 2.7 million dots. I know some people complain about this type of electronic viewfinder. They can see the rainbow tearing effect, but personally I never have the problem. I never see anything like that on the LX100 II or any of the previous camera that using the same kind of electronic viewfinder technology. And overall, even though the electronic viewfinder is not as big as the one on some of the bigger camera, I still find it pretty decent size, and the resolution, sharpness and color, everything is very good. The LX100 doesn't have a built-in flash, but it does have a hot shoe mount at the top of the camera, and it also comes with a little external flash that you can put it onto the hot shoe mount. It feels quite good when you put it into the camera because it's snapped into there and it's locked there, and there's a little switch there that you have to push if you want to remove it from the camera. So during this whole review period, I never found I have a need to use the external flash. And if I bought this camera, the chances are I probably never use this external flash at all. But I understand some of you guys really love to have this little external flash, which can be handy sometimes. And I just like how compact and easy to carry the LX100 Mark II is. I can definitely carry around with me every day, put it in any of a bag. I can even put it in the pocket, my jean pocket, even though it looks a little bit awkward, but it is definitely doable. It's not really much bigger than some other 1-inch premium compact camera in the market, but it has a much bigger sensor behind the lens, which gives you much bigger picture image quality, especially the low light performance. So overall, I find the control and the handling of this camera fantastic. Everything is very easy to use for someone like me who want to play with the setting. It's also very easy and very quick as well. The only minor thing that I want to complain is that every time when I turn on the camera, you can see it takes about a second or two to extend the lens, for the motorized lens to extend, and when I shut it down, it does also take about 2 seconds for it to retract. I personally prefer if this is not a motorized design, so that I can just manually, mechanically extend and retract the lens when I want to use the camera and finish using the camera. For the reason that it would be quicker, I think marginally maybe, and also it doesn't use up the battery all the time when I'm starting up and shutting down the camera. But this is probably just me, because I know some people definitely prefer to have a motorized lens design like the one on the LX100 Mark II. So let's talk about the lens. The LX100 Mark II has a Leica 24-75 f1.8 to f2.8 lens. So this is a 3x zoom lens, and the aperture is really fast considering it has a pretty big micro four thirds sensor behind the lens. I believe the lens is exactly identical to the one on the original LX100, which is not a bad thing because the lens on the LX100 is very good already. The sharpness is very good from center all the way to the edges, and there is a little bit of distortion, especially at some certain focal length, but overall I don't think it's too bad considering this is a collapsible, very compact zoom lens. Color is rendered beautifully, and bokeh is also very present when you are shooting at maximum aperture. You can see a bit of lens flare when you are shooting directly into the sun or some very strong light source. It's definitely not terrible, and when taking most of the everyday photos, you will probably never notice it. But in comparison to, say, the Leica 1260 f2.8 to 4 zoom lens for the micro four thirds camera, that lens has definitely less lens flare than this one on the LX100 Mark II. With the original LX100, the image resolution output is 12.8 megapixel, and with the LX100 Mark II, it is now increased to 17 megapixel. I believe it's actually using the same sensor as the one on the GX9, but it is lower resolution because it has a slightly higher crop, 2.2 times crop, which also allows the camera to keep the multi-aspect ratio design. So that means when you are switching between different aspect ratio, 4:3, 3:2, 16:9, the output image resolution would remain very similar. Now, since the raw reader for the camera has not been released yet, so all my testing is done on the JPEG only. So overall, the dynamic range, the high ISO performance, and everything is very similar to what I saw on the GX9, which is not really a big surprise. So if you talk about the high ISO performance, I would say anything up to about ISO 6400, the JPEG still look pretty decent and definitely very usable. If you go up to ISO 12800, then the quality starts to drop quite a bit. And for the maximum ISO 25600, I would say that's reserved for emergency use only. And Panasonic has also included some of the new picture profile from the other recent new camera. There's the L monochrome D mode, and there's a grand effect. And as we have seen in some of the recent Panasonic cameras such as the GX9, Panasonic's color science has improved quite a lot in the last 12 months or 18 months or so, and they have done the same thing with the LX100 Mark II. The JPEG straight out of the camera are beautiful. Personally, I love to shoot in L monochrome D when I'm shooting black and white, and when I'm shooting color, I love to shoot in vivid mode and with no changes. And yeah, I just love the JPEG that's straight out of the camera. The color looks stunning, or the grayscale, and the feeling of it just looks very nice. So if you are a JPEG shooter, just the improved color science by itself is already a good reason for you to upgrade from the LX100 to the new LX100 Mark II. The camera has the Panasonic DFD autofocus system. The claimed autofocus speed is 0.1 second, which is really fast. In real life, when I'm taking photo, the autofocus speed is definitely very fast, and overall it's just very accurate, and I almost never notice any hunting at all. It can shoot at up to 11 frames per second when you are shooting in AFS mode, and if you are shooting in continuous focus mode, the maximum burst speed is 5.5 frames per second. If 11 frames per second is still not fast enough, of course you can switch to the 4K photo mode, and then you can shoot at 30 frames per second. Despite increase in the image resolution, Panasonic has also increased the raw buffer size. The image buffer is now 33 raw files. This is quite a big jump from the 9 raw files for the original LX100. The camera using the same BLG10 battery as the original LX100. Battery life is actually slightly lower than the original LX100. I'm not too sure why, maybe because of the new image sensor or maybe the processor. The official rated battery life is 340 short when you are shooting using the LCD screen. This is 10 frames less than the LX100, which is 350 frames. I have not used both cameras shoot side by side to see how good it is, but overall I think the battery life is reasonable. It can last me maybe half a day of shooting, so if you are planning to go and do like a full day of shooting, definitely go grab 1 or 2 spare battery, and that will last you a whole day. And talk about the battery life, one new feature that comes with the LX100 Mark II is that you can now use the USB port to charge your battery. So that is very good when you are out on the road, so you can top up the battery when you are traveling. However, you can only use the external USB power source to charge the battery. You cannot use the external USB power source to power the battery when you are actually shooting. The camera now also has a Bluetooth connection in addition to the existing Wi-Fi connection. So that means you can use your smartphone to remote trigger, remote control, or transfer files from the LX100 Mark II to your smartphone easily. The LX100 Mark II also has a macro mode, so if you flip the switch on the side of the camera here from the normal AF mode to macro mode, then the camera can focus down to 3 cm. So it's not really like a one-to-one macro, but it's very useful when you want to take some close-up photo. When Panasonic first showed me the camera and told me about the changes that comes with the LX100 Mark II, I have to say I was disappointed because there doesn't seem to be too many big changes. There's no big fundamental changes between the two cameras. But after using the camera for about a week or so, I started to notice that the changes, even though they are not really dramatic changes, they are all very useful upgrade to the user. So for example, the new high resolution image sensor, the touch screen at the back, Bluetooth connection, the USB charging, the new color science, and all those new color profile, grand effect, and the increase in the image buffer. You know, all these things, individually they are not big, but all together they make it a very solid upgrade to the original LX100. So you may notice I actually have not talked about the video performance of this camera in this video because I have prepared a separate video that just focus on the video mode on this camera. So if you're interested in video as well, check out the next video after watching this video. So thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you find it useful, and please give it a thumbs up if you like it, share it with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And I will see you next time.